Hello, everyone. It's Chad Ballantyne here. I'm going to talk with you today about learning a new skill. The skill we're going to discuss is the long jump. Spent some time the last couple years working with one of my student athletes, uh, learning long jump from scratch, and we're going to go through that from from the beginning to where we are at this point. So let's get right into the process here. So a little bit of introduction and background on the long jump. Um, Again, the skill we'll be discussing is the long jump, and um, I've just got here what is the long jump. It's a track and field event, usually made up of three parts. There's a three-part approach to the a long jump. It's got to be usually 12 to 18 step approach for most folks. Um, Tends to be more toward the 18 side for a more elite jumper, someone with better foot speed, more power. It's going to be back further up the runway. And then there's a takeoff portion is the second thing, and then the landing. So they're going to be landing in a sand pit, um, taking off from what's called a toe board. Eight should be an 8-inch board of usually white board to go off of. The scratch board is about 2 inches of a different color. A lot of times that board is either yellow, black, or orange, something where it's very easy to see one versus the other. So whether they're running off um, the correct board or not, it's considered a scratch or a foul if it's over. If the jumper jumps from behind the board, it just means they're not getting as far of a distance measured, so it doesn't do anything but hurt the athlete. So it's important to coach that person, that individual, onto the board and try to be more consistent with that. Why is it important to learn? Well, in this case, in the case of this documentary, it's important to learn because the individual that's learning the skill is a heptathlete during the outdoor season and a pentathlete during the indoor season. So this event makes up part of the combined event. So it's important for points and trying to get better in that event. So classification of the skill. I'm going to get in here and talk more about uh, more about the long jump in depth here. Um, from a standpoint of from continuous to discrete, the long jump is going to fall more in that serial to discrete range. So I have in here in this vicinity closer to discrete. We do have a beginning and an end. We're going to starting point usually for most of my jumpers, and the one in this study is at usually at a seven lefts or seven rights. In her case, it's seven rights. Um, I usually count off all 14 steps, so she's a 14-step approach. Um, it's going to fall under. It's a gross motor skill, more so for sure. It's definitely a gross motor skill. We're talking about big arm movements. We're moving our legs at full speed, so we're driving out the back and trying to be fast as we attack at the board and accelerate through the board. So um, where it kind of gets a little bit of a gray area is finding that difference between closed and open skill. The long jump, for the most part, is considered a closed skill, so it actually falls normally on this end. If you do some research um, on the event, but I tend to think I have it in the middle here because I think that it's dependent on whether it's kind of dependent on whether you're in the indoor season or the outdoor season, the time of year. Um, if we're in the outdoor season, in which we're usually training outside year round, in our case, it's more toward an open skill. There's a lot of things going on. Environmental conditions and things can change. So with wind, and we'll get some more into that a little bit later on as well. So with wind and temperature changes and things, I tend to think it falls more into an open skill myself than a closed skill. So um, let's see. So on Gentile's taxonomy of motor skills, this skill is going to fall more in the 2C to 3C range. We do have body transport. We're definitely moving the body, down the runway with speed. At times, I would even say that it could fall more so in here to this 2D area, potentially just because some of the drills that we do, it even talks about in the 2D area where pole vaulting over bars set at different heights will, our pole vaulters do that on a daily basis as well as our high jumpers. So, but in addition to that, as part of my drills, we put a bungee across the sand pit a lot of times, and we're using that as an obstacle. So, for the most part, we are definitely in this range of the chart, but we could fall a little bit a little bit further down at times, and that's just during part of the training. So let's click on in through here. I want to get in here now and talk about some of the results of practice and sort of where we were in the beginning, and sort of show you differences in where she started and where she is now. So I'm gonna back it up. So this was in January of 2016. We did fall, we went through the off-season training in fall, mainly, with general condition and things. So we haven't really done anything specific to long jump at this point. I'll talk a little bit more about it in a minute whenever we discuss her individual attributes. But she had never done long jump before, with the exception of just being thrown in the event twice, once at the end of her junior year, once at the end of her senior year of high school. So she had never been taught until she came to the University of Montevallo, and I've been working with her ever since. So this is kind of where we were with really no work at all. As she goes to leave the toe board here, there's definitely some knee drive. She does a decent job of getting her knee to 90 degrees, but then she goes ahead and moves it through here. You can see her head start. If you can see right here, you can see where her head starts to go back. Her eyes are starting to look straight up, and that's a no-no. We don't want to do that. We want to try to keep our eyes forward, our body tall. So I want to come over here and come off of this here. And I want to play through here just a little bit. I want to move forward through this frame here. So now she's driving out. So she's coming on, but as she goes up, her back's coming back further, a little bit further. Her head's going back. And you see her head continuing to rock back here. And then as she goes in, she's a little bit everywhere. You can see this foot here, her left foot still up underneath her. So she's not learned yet to get her feet all the way out in front. So we got a long ways to go at this point in the training. We definitely let's go to another video from that same day. This is a different jump from a different angle, and see just a little bit better in this video. So let's watch her come on through here. So now let's stop her and come back. So in this drill, we're coming from an 8-step approach. We're not coming from full approach by no means. But she's steering here. You see her arms kind of coming through as she goes to take off. Well, we're not going from the board. I've just got them going from 8-step, going from the end of the runway. Okay, so now she's leaving the ground. So at this point, we're driving her knee, and ideally we want to drive that to just to 90 degrees or maybe even just a little bit more, and then run off into the air. So we're going to try to run lift up and out into the air at that point. So now her eyes should be looking straight ahead. She's already starting to rock her head back at this point. So let's see here. So this doesn't look too bad. Not too bad. Not for as early as it is in learning. But her back is leaning some. Trying to lose the battle with gravity a little bit sooner than we want to. So her feet are being set straight down. So what I really want you to see here, is where she was landing. So um, she's landing with her feet right up underneath her. So we're working at that point to try to get out of that. So that was in January of last year. The first meet, we're a little amped up. This was the first one of the first meets she'd done, long jump, and this is at East Tennessee, and there's a lot going on here that we've gotten so much better at this point in our training, even in the last couple of weeks this season. So she, she was amped up on this day. First indoor pentathlon opportunity to try to do well. So you'll see her attack the board here, and she hits the board. This head is straight. She's looking straight up at the ceiling. I mean, you can see her eyes going straight up. So at that point, she's already hurting the jump at takeoff. We're coming through here one more. You see the head on back, the shoulders are coming back, and she's really leaning. Now that she's in flight, and she's past what little knee drive she did get on that particular jump, she's laid way back. So this is just a super flat jump. She's really not getting any pop off the board at all. There's no height here. She's coming through, and just coming straight through here. There's no height. She should be getting knee lift. We should be getting up into this range. So again, we at this point, last year we haven't done a whole lot just yet on specific training. She hasn't seen a lot of people do it correctly. So we're still trying to watch videos and watch teammates that are a little more experienced and things. Now, but just the difference that a short amount of time makes. So that was a meet. In I think it was the 5th of February of 2016. This is actually the very next month, March of last year. We don't do a lot of measuring at practice, but on this particular day, we actually did measure her jump because this was a full approach. We don't do a whole lot of that either. It's typically just part practice. So we're usually from 8 to about 12 steps is what I keep us at. Early season when we're just doing some really short drills, we're at even 4 and 6 steps. So to get a lot of quantity in and not be so tired doing it. So right here you see her head. Her head is going back. She's throwing her head back a little bit here, but the knee is where we've increased it a lot. She's definitely, we're getting a lot more knee drive here. You'll be able to see, there's more knee drive at 90 degrees. She's pushing through all the way through the toe. The eyes are definitely looking up. She's definitely looking back and everything. But as you frame it through here, she's just a little bit better. Now she is leaning back. The head's definitely back. But you see how much. I think you can see. I hope you can see just how much higher she is off the ground than in this video than she was in the one just a month earlier. So just that knee drive, likely more power at the board. One thing too to keep in mind at this point, we've been in the weight room since September, and this is March. So she's definitely been getting stronger and faster as well. So that's always a huge reason as to why marks are lengthening out. And that particular jump was a PR at the time. That was a 16 feet 8-inch jump. And I'll talk more about here in just a minute where we actually started from and where we are at this point. So the three factors. Long jump is the task we're discussing. And for us, it was we're trying to become more technically sound with her. She's definitely got the power and the speed. That's coming. That continues to come along. It's the technical aspect that we're really focusing on. the individual is a student athlete in her sophomore season, and she's very young in the long jump. She's a strong hurdler. We'll discuss better more in detail of that in a minute. But and then the environment changes slightly with the weather and things like that. So other than that, it doesn't change a whole lot in what we do from day to day. So so our individual, Hunter, she's one of my sophomore student athletes here at the University of Montevallo. Her abilities, she came in very, very sound in her motor abilities. She's solid in her speed and her quickness, very explosive for her body size. In the first couple of weeks of fall training, we do just as far as weight room things, weight room stuff. It's just body weight stuff. So push ups, sit ups, dips, pushing her own body weight around. She's very she's very in tune with her body, so she's able to move her body really good. The transfer from events, so in different things, she's most definitely she's a more experienced hurdler, and that's definitely helped her with long jump, as well as some of these other events she's having to learn for the multi. So hurdles is a very strong point scorer, uh, when it comes to the multi. So um, her being a strong hurdler definitely helps her moving into learning other events. So she's very dynamic in the weight room with her Olympic lifts and plyometrics, box jumps, hurdle hops, things like that. She's very, very strong as far as her strength goes, and all of that correlates into and helps her transfer into being uh, being really good. She's got a good chance to continue to get better and better at the long jump as we go. It's just the big thing is continuing to learn the technical aspects of the event. So her starting skill was definitely cognitive. She was very very naive to what she was doing. So when she actually got here, she started out with um, we started out with doing our testing, which we do, standing overhead back shot put. We do a 45-second run that'll you can calculate out and determine what you would run a 400-meter in at that time if you were able to hold that for the rest of the time. And we also do standing long jump as well as some things in the weight room. So when we did our standing long jump, I knew that I had saw her results from high school, her actual long jump marks, and the best that's on paper is 13.4. And I didn't understand that because when we did standing long jump, she was standing with both feet shoulder width apart at the end of the runway and just uh, leaping out into the sand. She stands and jumps 8.5 feet, and that didn't correlate to me, and I told her that I said that didn't make any sense, and she didn't understand what I meant by that. And all I mean is, and all I meant at that time was she had a huge upside. I knew that we had a huge opportunity in that skill area once she kind of started learning the technical aspects of the skill. I knew we had a huge thing that we could improve on. So and she no doubt has. I mean, she went from the 13.4 range to 16, and so she was at 16.8 in that last video that we just saw, and then her PR at this point is 16.11 and three quarters, so three quarters of an inch. So she's right at that 17-foot mark, and she's actually there's a couple little things that we'll discuss later in the results to practice toward the end here, um, of where she is now. A couple of things that can change, and she can be a lot better off. So the skill is again a discrete, open, and growth skill. Um, the way we measure is speed, power, and distance. How far have we got in the event? Speed and the power is something that continues to come along. Um, what signifies the learning for her and for me as a coach trying to determine where we are is just if I can see improvements in our technique, and then also just the increased marks. As we especially with competitions, we're able to everything's on paper. We have evidence uh, of where we are at that point in time in the season, and we kind of hopefully build off of that. So the environment for this skill, it is varying at times. It's not always the same. Typically, sometimes we're in windy conditions, so we'll have a swirling wind practice, or we're usually outdoors. Maybe a crosswind or a wind in our back or a headwind, and also temperature differences can be different from one practice session to another. But for the most part, we try not to. We have pretty good weather in Alabama, so we don't have to worry too much about being out in the cold. But just in case, on some of those cold days, if it's to where we can, we try not to practice um, outside in below 40-degree weather. If we can get out of it, especially if it's a sprint day, a speed day, or a jump day. If it's just cardio, then I don't mind it too much. I'll put them. We'll try to be outside. But if it's to where we can, as long as we've had a pretty good week otherwise of practice and been able to do some things technically, then from a technical standpoint, then I'll move. We'll get inside and do something a little bit different, mix things up, maybe even get in the indoor pool that day um, to avoid colder weather and the possibility of pulling something or getting someone sick. So so the instruction and demonstration is definitely it's primarily comes from me, um, me as her coach, demonstrating things and showing her videos of someone else that I've coached or having we do use I do often tell them to pay attention to their teammates. One of the guys on the team is a junior this year. He's trending up big time in the long jump and triple jump, so he's got a lot more experience in that event. So I have her watch and pay attention to him as well, and as well as him pay attention to her as well. So there's always things to learn from their teammates. And also, I definitely like for them to be a student of the sport. Checking out videos of professional and elite athletes performing the skill well. If I see anybody at other meets that I feel like they're doing something really good that I want them to pay attention to, or if they're doing the same thing wrong in some instance that my athlete is doing, then I try to get them to pay attention to that as well. Anything that's going to help them learn along the way. So also, just coaching cues before, during, and after practice, and just immediate video analysis, during practice, is things that we do for demonstration purposes and instruction. But um, there is some division of focus. Again, with like kind of with the environment, the windy conditions and teammates practicing other events, and they're wanting to talk and hang out at practice and things like that, and everybody's trying to get practice in. But for the most part, there's not a whole lot of division of focus. She's very highly motivated because it is important. This skill, her learning this skill is very important to the success of her multi, and she knows that. So she's very in tune to what she needs to do in learning the new skill properly. Distractors are typically fears of scratching, fouling the jump, and then also overthinking. Um, Too many cues at once. What I mean by that is as a coach, I have to be careful not to tell her too many things to correct at once, so that she's not trying to focus on too many things and just kind of get mind blown. Because if so, she'll be overthinking it and mess up whenever she really just needs to focus on one thing. Maybe it's hey, keep your head down and your eyes forward. So if I tell her that, and then I'm trying to tell her to keep her feet out and you know drive her knee. So all those three things. Instead of saying all three, try to just say one thing at a time and kind of build off of that. So from feedback standpoint, we definitely there's definitely a knowledge of the results. We have results at the end of competition, and again, it's on paper. So there's no denying where we are from the standpoint of it's definitely measured results. There is definitely also a constant knowledge of performance between the coach and the athlete. So I'm constantly giving them um, uh, advice or feedback of where we are throughout practice. So that's nothing new, and we also the videos of them and their teammates is important as well. So, um, real quick, I want you to see this video of Carl Lewis from Olympics, him and Mike Powell um, jumping just crazy, uh, crazy distance. I use this video because I've actually met Carl Lewis in the last couple years, so and got to hear him speak long jump. So we'll let this play real quick, and then we'll. Here's penultimate step. It's something that's very important. As if you pay close attention, where he says just set the record in the 100 meters. So that's so hearing him say that, hearing the announcer say that, it's important to know that, again, the faster you are coming down the runway, the farther you're going to jump. That's simple physics, um, and and I've really tried to hammer that home to Hunter and to my other athletes this last year or so. This is just a picture of Carl speaking at our coaches convention this past December, and then I was able to talk to him in the lobby at the hotel last year, and me and some coaching buddies, and he actually, for about 20 minutes, was just going through all kinds of things about long jump, and it was really awesome to hear him brainstorm out loud about things different things that he thought about the event area. So, um, practice variability. There's definitely varying things we do at practice. We do our step approaches from different lengths. Usually around that 8 to 12 step range. Usually don't go past 12 steps. Never do very many full steps, full step approaches. We do ramp work, going off a ramp. That kind of makes you have a penultimate step. Um, Most of my athletes don't do a very good job with it just yet. They're very young and trying to figure it out. Hunter's one of those. She's just sort of running through the board and jumping. She's not loading it at the board. So, and then we jump into the high jump mats, or into the back of the pole vault mat, and also some sand drills. I want to show you a quick clip of the sand drills that we do. Um, Things here. So this is Hunter and TJ that I mentioned earlier doing these sand drills. Now, they have a little bit different um, strength attributes and power and things, but what I want you to notice is, again, TJ a little bit longer. Just something simple, right here. So there's when he's staying a lot more. In this situation, they're counting off to 20, so they're doing essentially they're doing 10 split jumps with each leg, barefooted in the sand. It's basically a leg strengthening exercise. It's being the same, um, in the same category of um, we're actually working on things that us in the long run. So, but what I want you to see is he's taller and straighter. She's a little bit pitched forward. Um, and part of that may be that she's maybe not strong in the core area, but a lot of it is he's just more used to the event, and he knows more about what his body position needs to be in when he's doing those split jumps. So um, now this is going to be from earlier this year, as we've been working a little bit longer. This is January of 2017. So this is they're skipping over a bigger hurdle here, gallop, bound, and then boom into the map, all map from. So what I want you to notice is
again, she's still learning. We're getting there. So,
but that head still wants to go back some of the time. She doesn't do it all the time now.
but she still does it some of the time. So, one thing she does is
With that hurdle that last time, she sort of crashes, and
it makes it difficult for her to get back going onto the ramp and then taking off. But she's already starting to look up before she drives up, and then she stops that knee drive.
before she goes
So
with those. Um, so the distribution of practice, we definitely, it's primarily during the season is when we're doing specific work. So it's mainly January to May when we're doing a lot of specific work to the long jump. In the fall, we're doing alternative methods of heel sprints and driving the knee and um, as plyometrics, Olympic lifts in the weight room. We're doing year round. It's usually mass sessions, and then it's broke up into parts. So part versus whole practice. We're primarily doing part practice. We don't do a whole lot of whole practice as far as full approach, all out jumps. At full approach steps, we'll go through and do um, a full approach steps running through the board, but not a whole lot of all out jumps. We'll do that once to twice, maybe every 2 weeks. It's really not that often. And she's done more full step approach jumps this year than she did her freshman year. So we're still building for that. So I really want you to see the results of practice. So um, from the videos from the very first of her freshman year, we looked at just a moment ago to kind of go through and analyze, compare that to that was mainly January, February, and March of 2016. This is February 2017. In here now, a couple things I want
you to see is where we are. For one thing, I don't know if you could tell it in the video, but
and that's proof because now she's running.
she's ran 14:27 and 14:30 back to back in the hurdles in back to back weeks. Last year she fastest
Hurdles was 14:48. So we've also ran 14:38 this year as well. So she's ran 3 times this year faster than she did last year. So at all. Um, so here, there's better knee drive. Her head's not
back as far, and we're just getting better drive off the board. She's running off the board better, and she's kicking out. Now the one thing I want you to look at here
is where her
left leg is, right there where it's kicking out. So this is
working on where we are. And she's noticed this too now, and we were definitely trying to correct it. But this is her hurdling in March. So she's here in lane 4. Um, so and look where her leg is here. That trail leg, that correlation from one event to the other. So in a lot of ways it's a good thing, and in a lot of ways it's bad. It's the opposite leg in this case, but she's so used to that trail leg and the hurdles coming over that hurdle, she's kicking that leg out, and it's hurting us in the long jump. So she's trying to get her feet out front. A little bit of a scale, so just from a 1 hour to 10, 20, 30 hour spread. I've just kind of put a linear line graph here to kind of show technique, speed, and power. And what I really want you to see out of this is, we started out with our speed and power being on a higher scales to begin with. So you see that the speed was about, I've got us at a 2, and I was just thinking on terms of more like a 1 to 10 scale or 0 to 10 scale. And we started out there, and we've increased it a little faster, and then also our powers increased even more so. Um, than even the speed. And then from a technique standpoint, we started very very low on that scale, and it took some time to get better. She's definitely improved on the skill. I think that there's obvious improvement in some of the video clips over the last several years. or over the last several months, but we definitely got a long ways to go. The the improvement, that's some of the better videos that you've seen in those clips there. Um, Hopefully she continues to work on the skill um, and get better as we go. So we've got conference in the next couple of weeks. Just today we were working on ramp work. So we're still trying to drive that knee a little bit longer and get our feet out a little bit further, and just keep reaching for those feet. Um, I hope you've enjoyed this documentary. We definitely I've definitely enjoyed putting it together, and I appreciate you listening. Thanks.